I have the right of way. Hey everyone, Colton Furlow here. I'm out in the most miserable place on earth, Washington, D.C. And we're out here in the streets talking to people about the Don't Say Gay bill that Disney and other woke people are so against. But that's not even what the bill is actually called. The real bill is the Parental Rights and Education bill. And many people don't even know what's in that bill. So let's go let them know. So are either of you or both familiar with the Don't Say Gay bill?
I'm actually not. I'm not. I've heard about it, but I don't know the specifics.
Yeah. Right. What have you heard about it? What do you know about it?
So pretty much through passing, like in the media, I know that they literally, like it says, they don't want people to say gay in terms of like their institutions and stuff like that with their jobs, right?
Gotcha. Can I ask like what media outlet you would say you've heard it from?
Mostly social media.
Chip. It's Chip. It's Chip. 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 Do you know where Dale is? Why is it letting me get so close to it? There is a bill that was brought out to be like a compromise for it. It's called the Parental Rights and Education Bill. It says classroom instruction by school personnel or third parties on sexual orientation or gender identity may not occur in kindergarten through grade 3. Would you be okay with that being passed?
Oh, we don't do much of that anyway.
Okay, so the rest of this bill is basically saying that school districts cannot deny parents from collecting medical records on their children that the school have, and they have to be notified of any mental, emotional, or physical changes from their student. Would you be okay with that then?
Yeah.
What if I told you this is the Don't Say Gay bill, and it actually does not say Don't Say Gay anywhere in that bill?
Oh, that would be interesting. I mean, I actually didn't know much about it, so that would be interesting.
That's how social media can falsify information. Saying,
That was a good turnaround because I saw it on social media, so that's very interesting.
When it comes to that, I do agree with you. Like, yeah. I feel like that should be left up to the parents, you know?
So, Aaron, if you look over here, Aaron, where are your ears?
Colton, I really don't feel like it. I'm just here to film.
Aaron, it's part of the gig. Give me the camera. Put your ears on. Put them on. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Looks great.
I know there are only 2 left in the store, but why do I have to wear the girl one?
Because, Aaron, it's not about what you look like on the outside. It's how you feel on the inside.
Well, I feel embarrassed and I want to go home.
No, come on. Have you heard of the Don't Say Gay bill?
No.
No. Well, I never thought about what we're going to do now. Have y'all heard of the Don't Say Gay bill?
No.
What is wrong with people? It's a woke world after all. Have either of you heard of the Don't Say Gay bill?
Yes.
Yes. What do you guys know about it?
I know that it doesn't actually say you can't say gay, and that it's about stopping child grooming in schools.
And would you agree with the bill in itself then?
I do, yeah.
I like it. It's a woke world. So what do you think about the media turning it around, saying that it says don't say gay when it explicitly, I sound like Joe Biden right now, explicitly does not say it?
It's unsurprising. I guess I'm just used to it by now.
The guy from Australia knows it better than Americans do. Can I also get a cherry dipped waffle cone? From what you've heard of the Don't Say Gay bill, would you say you're opposed to it?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Right. So what do you think is a good age for teachers to be able to talk about these things?
Oh, I hate those questions. I mean, obviously high school, yes. They're already having sex.
Nice going. Well, so there is a counter bill, to like a compromise.
Yeah.
It's called the Parental Rights and Education Bill. So basically, this bill talks about anytime a teacher notices emotional, mental, physical health and well-being changes, that they have to notify the parents, which is basically pretty normal. And it also says classroom instruction by school personnel or third parties on sexual orientation or gender identity may not occur in kindergarten through grade 3. Would you say that's okay?
I guess so. I mean, compromise.
So what if I told you that compromise bill is the quote-unquote don't say gay bill?
Oh man.
Yeah, so
How to get you?
yeah, so the media has just covered it up, saying it says don't say gay. Doesn't even say that in it at all, and they're misleading people. So we are right outside of Snow White's house, but we have to keep our voices very low because one of the 7 dwarves are inside. Sleepy Joe Biden.
All right, well, that was very amusing. Colton and Aaron running around the streets of Washington, D.C., doing these man and woman on the street interviews about this parental rights bill in Florida. Some people are calling it, who are trying to disparage it, the Don't Say Gay bill. Actually, what it really does is say the parents should be able to expect that these schools are simply teaching their kids how to read, how to write, basic lessons in the world, including history and how to go to the bathroom. How about washing your hands after you go to the bathroom? Say please, say thank you. There's some real basics in life that I think schools are getting away from. And we were happy to put out a statement in support of this bill. And it gets to this whole question about these woke corporations. And I was invited to go out to Minneapolis, Minnesota, where it was a little more chilly than here in the swamp, and speak to their annual Lincoln Reagan dinner. And I talked about what happens when America goes woke and when our elite institutions go woke. And what we're seeing with the Walt Disney Company in Florida is really an abomination. You know, Walt Disney, a lot of people don't realize this, was a strong Republican. He voted for Barry Goldwater over Lyndon Baines Johnson. He was somebody that believed in America. He believed in the Constitution. Remember, Disney World has that whole part of Independence Hall, about the founding of our country. It has the Hall of Presidents. It's got some really important patriotic lessons for kids, and it just does not square with what the Walt Disney Company is advocating for today. And I think this bill perfectly illustrates that. We want schools to go back to educating our kids and not trying to inculcate these left-wing values over the values of the parents. And parents should retain ownership over what happens in classrooms with their kids, including any kind of medical or healthcare questions. And when they're pushing gender confusion, you can see why parents are greatly alarmed. So I won't be as entertaining as Aaron and Colton, but we're going to show you now the speech I gave in Minneapolis, which was really about my own story about what's going on in cancel culture and woke incorporated. Stay tuned.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage CPAC chairman and author of The Desecrators, as well as superstar conservative Matt Schlapp.
Thank you. Well, just so you know, it's really hard to watch yourself on television, and it's almost impossible to watch yourself on CNN. So I think they're going to pass around Tums and Rolaids to calm your stomachs. I know. How many of you even watch CNN or MSNBC anymore? So we got a brave man right here. That's right. You got to know what the enemy says. As a good friend of me told me, a great way to know what both sides think is to read the Bible and watch CNN every day, and you can kind of know what's going on. But the fact is those are old clips because somebody like me can't get on those stations anymore. Very rare. I used to, during 2015, 2016, 2014, it wasn't uncommon where I would be on Fox, CNN, and MSNBC, sometimes in the same day, which was a unique thing that I did. And it's really dried up, and it really tells us that's the story of what's going on in America. I usually don't do this, but for this dinner, I am going to tell you that we do have books at the center of all your tables. I'm happy to sign them afterwards. I don't know if you're going to like the book, Not like the book, you'll let me know. We're all pretty candid with each other in this movement of ours. But what it does is tell our story, my wife, Mercy's, and my story about what went on over the last couple years. And what was amazing to us is, think about it, we're on these shows, we know these hosts, we have friendships. Senator Boschwitz knows there was a time in politics when you had friendships with Democrats and liberals. This is going to be shocking, you could have lunch together. And nobody thought the other one was evil. We thought that they believed in too much government and too little constitution. But we believed in things like having a secure border and supporting the military and thinking that there was a need for law enforcement. These are foreign concepts now to the people inside that party. And I remember sitting in my home study, and we had just had a great CPAC conference. It was the last conference we had in Washington, D.C. We now do our national conferences. We just had one in Florida, and we're going to have one in Dallas. And you're all invited. Please come join us in Dallas. In Texas. I call them the two mega red states that are really driving our economy and driving them crazy, by the way. I think Ron DeSantis literally every day wakes up and says, how can I bedevil these people? By just doing some very basic things. Can you imagine? Controversial to say that you shouldn't be talking about sex to kindergartners. Controversial. I thought that was the law. I thought you were a creepy person if you tried to do that with kids. I looked at the poll numbers on that issue alone. The gay community, the Democrats, no matter who you are, they're all supporting this bill because it's just common sense, and this party has lost its common sense. So I'm sitting in my home office, and we have this great CPAC event, and I just think everything's great. I get a call from the White House, and they say, hey, did so-and-so go to your conference? I said, yes. Well, it turned out this was one of these early cases of coronavirus. And I thought, well, too bad. This is terrible for the guy. He's a doctor. He's a great guy. He's a good friend. I called him. He really was in serious condition. We were afraid he was going to die. And then there was a second person, another doctor, ironically, who got coronavirus too. And I thought what we would focus on is helping them and their families, right? And then I had to call everybody who went in my team. We had to call everyone and calm them down because people started to worry. What is this thing? And I turned on my television. You remember this, the beginning of the virus, the outbreak? I turned on, it didn't matter what it was. Turned on the television, and you could see they wanted to profit off panicking the entire country and the entire world. And they started putting that chyron on of how many people had tested positive and what the deaths were and everything else. And a week after CPAC, I was now getting calls all day long from people who were going to sue us, from people who thought they were going to die because of what we did, and all the national news media, and I have the stories, one day I'll have the guts to read them again, accusing us of starting an international super spreader. They had me shaking hands with President Trump, with Ivanka Trump, with you name it, Larry Kudlow, whatever, and they would focus on my hand and put a red circle around it and say, this is when he was giving coronavirus to this person, and then he gave it to that person, and then, by the way, I didn't get it till like 2 years later. I never had it. And I kept trying to explain to them. I was like, isn't there a law against, you can't say I have a disease or a virus I do not have. And I didn't give it to that person, and that person doesn't have it, and you can't do this. And I was on the call with a very famous editor of a conservative journal. And I said, he was writing another story about how if CPAC had taken precautions, maybe we wouldn't have so many dead people, which is basically what the stories were saying. Talk about getting angry, right? Been terrible. So he says, hey, Matt, you're really taking it in the shorts on this one. It's not fair. And he said, but you know what? That's what you get for supporting Trump. And it really, I'm slow, but it really hit home to me. That's what it was all about for these years. It wasn't about saving lives. It wasn't about doing the right thing. It wasn't good-hearted liberals just living out their political desires to try to help the country. No. It was about getting people who were for Trump. And when that was said to me, I realized the country's in a much worse place than I thought. So it started with all of this craziness about Trump, and I would go on TV. I remember I went on MSNBC, which I don't advise. And I guess that's Jen Psaki's home, as they said. Jen Psaki is leaving the White House to go to MSNBC. And I said on Twitter today, actually, that's the same place. So that's not really leaving the White House. But I was on MSNBC, and it was the first time I'm on with a black socialist, who's a professor, of course. We reward all these people with professorships, it seems like. And he called me a racist. He called Steve Bannon a racist. He called Sean Spicer, who I go to church with. And by the way, Sean Spicer is probably one of the nicest people I've ever met. Called Sean Spicer a racist. And I kind of lost it, because I was like, you can't do that. You're not allowed to throw out this idea that you think someone's a racist just because they're white and you're black. Just because there's a color difference doesn't mean we get to start throwing around these terms. And that kind of was my first indoctrination into this idea that what these media platforms wanted was a race riot in this country. They weren't looking to call out people who are racist. They were looking to silence anybody who was like me. And I remember I got off this, my hands were, I lost saliva because I was so upset, and my hands were shaking because I just couldn't believe somebody would be raised in this way, where they would just start calling you a racist on national television. And I did lose my footing, and I probably lost my cool, because I can't imagine a worse thing to be called. I really just can't. That's the worst thing you can say to someone, and they say it on national television. They know the power of what they're doing, and the host knows the power of the setup play. And I would always say, I realized after that, because they would ask me to come on again. Anytime there was immigration or a race issue, hey, would you like to come on? And I said to one of the bookers one time, I said, you need Colonel Sanders back to do another replay of the last time you had me on? Big guy, big white hair, I could try to have a southern accent. What is it you're trying to do here? And we know what they're trying to do. Once again, it's trying to create this division. So we turned on our TVs, and you all know, right here in your state, we had this, this terrible tragedy of George Floyd, which just kind of transformed the entire country. And I'm sitting there, and the whole Black Lives Matter thing, which I had found just so un-American from the beginning of when this movement started. And I thought, but it's touchy, right? I'm a white guy. I have privilege. You don't want to touch these kinds of issues if you're someone like me, because you'll get canceled. But I'm watching TV. Once again, it didn't matter what you watched. And nobody would say Black Lives Matter. They would say there are these rioters out here that are upset about the death of George Floyd, and they would go on to report. I mean to tell you, when I was at the White House for President Trump's, when they did the convention essentially on the White House lawn, were any of you there? The Black Lives Matter people were all around us, right? And you saw the pictures of Rand Paul and other people who were basically attacked by these folks. Do you realize they were wearing logo clothing? It said Black Lives Matter on their shirts, on their masks, on their hats. Now, how can you be so well branded? By the way, someone's paying for that. How can you be so logoed out? And everyone can see that you're logoed, but the media covering it will act like it's a spontaneous thing that's just happening to try to have racial harmony and civil rights. So I went a little bit crazy about that too, and I started tweeting out about what Black Lives Matter thinks. And my able staff had done some research, and they were able to get that screenshot of the website. Remember this? What were they for? They were for no prophets. They were for no state of Israel. They were for no moms and dads and no Western patriarchies like the family or fatherhood. They were against everything that can make civilization work and make people happy. So I thought that I'm so clever that I'll tweet out, not even talk about race, but talk about what they were for beyond this idea of racial division. Hey, how about we don't burn down churches, all these churches dedicated to St. Junipero Serra, which they were burning down. How about we not desecrate Jewish cemeteries, which they were doing and advocating for. right? What about not destroying statues of Jesus and his mother Mary and these very basic things? And what happened when I sent those tweets out, a blogger was hired, I assume, by somebody on the left. And that blogger was basically a one-man band to destroy my commercial existence. He called anybody I had any business dealings with and said, do you know you employ a racist? And then used the tweets. For instance, when Mitt Romney marched with Black Lives Matter, I said, Mitt Romney just marched for 9 months of abortion. Now, Mitt Romney in his head might have thought he was doing something that was racially healing. I saw him doing something that was playing into the hands of a group of donors that were trying to rip us apart. You know, it wasn't ever about fighting racism, it was about fighting America. And what we have to do as Republicans is do not accept the idea that the Republican Party is the racist party, that we are the place that harbors white supremacists. This is their theory, and it is only a theory. They teach it to our children, they teach it to our grandchildren, and too many of us, myself included, for too long have shied away. People would say to me, Matt, God bless you, thank you for going on and making those fights. You're just not the right guy to make them. Let's have people of color make those arguments. Let's have younger people make those arguments. You name it. And I'd always say to them, great. I would love to stop being the person doing this. But the problem is, and you all know it, people knew the consequences of doing it. And I just thought maybe I was secure enough and advanced enough in my career and had an established reputation of not being a racist that I would get away with criticizing pretty mildly this group of entities called Black Lives Matter. Well, that didn't happen. So this blogger literally called every person. I lost everything we had financially. And it was, traumatic for us personally, while it was traumatic for the country. And I realized what the left does, they're just a wrecking ball to any one of us that steps forward. And I had this choice to make, and we did it with our pastor, and I mentioned it in the book. We had this choice to make, and Mercy's the best wife you could ever I can't even tell you how great she is. She's great in 2 languages, by the way. And we sat around with my kids. I have 5 daughters, and some of my daughters were old enough to kind of get it. And we would talk about it as a family, like, maybe I need to, learn how to sell life insurance, or maybe I got to, do landscaping. We didn't know what to do. We had bought a nice house. We have a bunch of bedrooms for all these kids we have. We do all these fundraisers for all these candidates. I was doing pro bono work for CPAC, and really I thought I was doing everything I needed to do, and then we had this disruption. And I will say there's really something wonderful about socialism. And this is something I really think we all just need to think about this side of it. It does wonders for your prayer life. I never prayed so much than when these jerks, and I have stronger language, when I watch them burning down our cities, destroying our schools, teaching people that the Constitution and our founding was all about covering up racism, it just shook me to my core. And my wife and I kind of came to the same conclusion. I had friends say, hey, Matt, here's the deal. These PR experts, which I clearly am not, and they would say, just go take a year off, go relax, go put yourself on ice, everything's going to be fine, you'll reemerge, you'll do your thing, and you'll be okay. And I would say to these people, I'd say, well, what's going to happen in that year? We're slipping so fast. What's going to happen in that year? And by the way, don't we all do this when we get into the crosshairs of these terrible, radicalized Marxists? Whether it's in your business, in your school, if you're in Congress, what do we all do? We've all been taught this. Slip away, whisper, be quiet. Just let it happen to somebody else for a while. You don't have to be the focus. And it was kind of like one of those aha moments for Mercy and I. We're like, screw that. We're going to go double down. And we said, and here you have Donald Trump, who we had lost almost every friend for supporting, and we had our whole kind of social existence changed, then our whole economic existence changed, And then we decided we would just throw everything we could into this election. And it was great. And I felt like I had an angel on both of my shoulders, and I felt like I was doing what God wanted me to do. My message to all of you is this. I didn't say all that so that you guys could like me. I said all that because it's true. And I'm no different from what you guys are going through, or what your neighbor's going through, or what your grandson is going through. This is what they are doing all over this country. And I want to broaden it. We do CPACs now all over the world. We've been to Japan, Korea, Brazil, Australia. We're going to Israel. We're going to Hungary. We were the first group to be asked to go protest with the Hong Kong students in Hong Kong, which was amazing. You ever think about what happened to that one brave Chinese man who stood in front of that tank in Tiananmen Square? Do you know his name? I don't think anybody knows his name. He's not with us anymore. It's what they do. I think about these kids I protested with. I don't know if they're still with us. With all the craziness of the virus, they were able to shut those protests down. And this is where we are in the world. And when I was on the streets there, so many of these, these were young kids, students. They were all covered to avoid the facial recognition software and such. And we're literally to that wall. There's the police station. We're all protesting. It's dark like this, and they have the laser beams, which they're, putting on your heads, letting you know they could open fire at any moment. And I had so many of these students come up to me and say, "Hey, are you that guy with CPAC?" And I got a little emotional. I was like, "Yeah, I'm that guy with CPAC. How do you know who I am?" And they knew who I was, because remember, I'm Colonel Sanders. I'm like 6 feet tall. They're short, and they're young, and I'm old. And several of these kids came up to me, and they were like, "Are you the guy from CPAC?" I was like, "Yes." And they kept doing it. Like 3 or 4 or 5 of these students came up to me. And I was like, yes, I am. And I think they just think I'm great. And finally, one of these guys gets honest, and he goes, "You're the guy with CPAC, right?" I said, "Yeah, I'm the guy with CPAC." He goes, "We're worried about you." I was like, "I'm worried about you. We're all in this together." I tried to give him a pep talk through the translator, And he's like, "No, we're worried about you because when they start shooting, you have to run really fast. We do not think you can run fast." I said, "I have short bursts of speed. 25 yards, I'm going to be running on top of you, but you'll have to carry me the rest of the way to the hotel after that." But several of them said something which really, really, really affected my thinking and the thinking of the whole team that was over there. They said, "Please go back to America and tell your president, President Trump at the time, that for the first time, we believe America's got our back." Think about that. While our schools are teaching our kids that our flag should be burned, that our anthem should be changed, that our country is rotten and racist, freedom lovers around the globe know our songs better than our children know them, wave our flag more often than we raise it, and it just hit me that the entire world seems to understand the need for America better than America does. And they would say to me, "Please go back. Please help Trump win. Please defeat socialism in America. Because if America embraces socialism, we're all goners." Now, those kids in Hong Kong, I don't know where they are. It's not a good place. They're either not with us or they're in prison. But they shut it all down. All these people who are just trying to embrace this concept of individual human dignity and individual rights and freedom, they have to fight and put their lives on the line. Think about what the people did who started this country. It makes me emotional when I watch these movies and read these books now, because look what they gave us, and look what we're chucking over to the side. Now, here's how it ends. We go back to, we're the party of science and math. Look at the polls. For 50 years, the biggest subset of voters in this country are us, conservatives, or as I say, Americans who love America and her founding. We don't even have to use these political terms. We think America is a good place. We think the Constitution is a gift from God that helps people live the lives that God wants them to live, that the individual is in charge of the government and not the reverse. And we're the biggest group, and we act like we're the smallest group. And we are whispering. Whenever people would walk up to me and tell me, thank you for everything you do for President Trump or for the conservative movement, they're always whispering, almost always whispering, unless we can get together as friends, because the consequences of having our views and values are so dangerous. They really are. I'm not minimizing them. I've lived it. I get it. But here's the thing. Stop whispering. Start talking. Talk respectfully, but talk in a loud, bold, proud voice. Be proud of your country. Do not back down, my friends. If we back down, if we take one more step back, we're going to fall over the side of a cliff. No more steps back, you step forward. And we've got to go on offense. And we've got to teach people our history. We've got to do it because the entire world is relying on us. I say it I was reading, it probably was weird. I was reading my book at the plate. People probably thought, like, he didn't really write it because he's reading it. It's like, no, we really wrote it. But I wanted to reread the beginning because here's what I believe. I think maybe some of you agree with me. I have a feeling that this is why I'm here. Why did God put us here? Sometimes it could be an amazing surgeon or to teach kids amazing lessons. I think for a lot of us activists, it's to save the country. It's to refound the country. It's to take that great win in Virginia, my governor, Glenn Youngkin, how about that, he comes from the private equity world, so I'm like, I don't know, is he going to be that good? I've been lied to so many times. And he said he was going to do all these things. He embraced the parents. He comes into my neighborhood in Northern Virginia, which has gone woke and is very annoying, and they don't like us too much. He goes into this supermarket with no mask on. And I was like, he's my man. This is awesome. If we can do it in Virginia, and as great as Glenn Youngkin is, he didn't do it. Those parents did it. When the government called parents domestic terrorists, you know what these parents did? They kept going back to those school boards in a blue state and talked about protecting our kids. It's something that is just integral to us surviving as a society. And so this is what we're going to do together. We're going to believe in ourselves. We're going to understand that there's more of us than there are of them. You know how I know that that's true besides polling? You never cheat when you're going to win. Why did they cheat? Because there's less of them. They have to cheat. We just got to keep them from cheating so much. And we got to find confidence. And we got to boldly proclaim what we want to do for this country. And here's what I think we are. I think we're decent. I think we're tolerant. I think we're understanding. The people in this room do not care to be busybodies about what their neighbors are doing. They focus on their own families. They just don't want those neighbors and these elites to tell them how they raise their kids. What are the rules in their home? I think we're going to have an amazing victory this year. And I think for the very first time in a long time for Republicans, we don't have to worry about what that agenda is. We saw that agenda through 4 years of the Trump administration. Secure the border. Utilize our resources to make sure we have the fossil fuels and the energy we need to run our economy. Get the government out of the way. Restore the Constitution and have judges who pledge allegiance to it. That's what we need in this country. And we need all of you to feel like you can live the life that you want to live without everyone telling that you're hateful or you're racist or you're nasty or that you hate this person or hate that person. That's what's going to happen. And when we do this year, we are going to inspire a whole new generation of Americans to fall in love with their country, to be patriotic, and to be proud of what we stand for, and to be proud of being Republicans. You know, I'm a proud Republican. I'm mad at the Republican Party a lot. It's true. Like all of us, I get grumpy. I am proud to be part of this party. I am proud to be part of a party that waged a civil war, got rid of slavery, was created to get rid of slavery, gave those former slaves their civil rights through an amendment to the Constitution, which is always the right way to do it the right way. We secured the vote for those former slaves. We were the ones in larger percentages to vote for every civil rights bill that went through the Congress. We were the ones that fought Jim Crow. We are the ones that believe the individual has God-given rights. Never let anyone say we're the racist party ever again. And when you take back your country by standing proudly for these very common sense values, you're going to do something you never realized you're going to do. You're going to give hope to this whole world. We're not the globalists. They think they are the globalists. But what's interesting is the people around the world are looking to us to get it done. And I think, sadly, we're in a desperate situation in so many ways. But I think that's the point when we turn it around. So let's turn it around. Make Minnesota red, please. Okay, is that a deal? God bless you all, and thank you for having me here tonight. Thank you.